Immediately following the death of Sitting Bull, the Sioux people were tempted to rise up and attack the U.S. troops who'd been sent to arrest him. However, the ghost dance religion taught peace and mercy, and so the Sioux allowed the troops to leave unharmed. A Sioux leader named Bigfoot began to lead Sitting Bull's remaining followers. The government issued a warrant for Bigfoot's arrest. As soon as Bigfoot learned that Sitting Bull had been killed, he started his people toward Pine Ridge, hoping that Great Chief Red Cloud could protect them from the soldiers. During the route, he fell ill of pneumonia, and when hemorrhage began, he had to travel in a wagon. On December 28th, as they neared Porcupine Creek, they spotted 4 troops of cavalry approaching. Bigfoot immediately ordered a white flag run up over his wagon. About 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Bigfoot raised up from his blankets to greet Major Samuel Whiteside, 7th U.S. Cavalry. Bigfoot's blankets were stained with blood from his lungs, and as he talked in a horror whisper with Whiteside, red drops fell from the nose and froze in the bitter cold. Whiteside told Bigfoot that he had orders to take him to a cavalry camp on Wounded Knee Creek. The Minneconjou chief replied that he was going in that direction. He was taking his people to Pine Ridge for safety. Whiteside insisted that his orders were to capture Bigfoot's Indians and disarm and dismount them. Once at the cavalry tent camp on Wounded Knee Creek, the Indians were halted and carefully counted. There were 120 men and 230 women and children. Because of the gathering darkness, Major Whiteside decided to wait until morning before disarming his prisoners. He assigned them a camping area immediately to the south of the military camp, issued them rations, and as there was a shortage of teepee covers, he furnished them with several tents. Whiteside ordered a stove placed in Bigfoot's tent and sent a regimental surgeon to administer to the sick chief. To make certain that none of his prisoners escaped, the major stationed 2 troops of cavalry as sentinels around the Sioux teepees, and then posted his 2 Hotchkiss guns on the top of the rise overlooking the camp. Later in the darkness of that December night, the remainder of the 7th Regiment marched in from the east and quietly bivouacked north of Major Whiteside's troops. Colonel James W. Forts, commanding Custer's former regiment, now took charge of operations. He informed Whiteside that he had received orders to take Bigfoot's band to the Union Pacific Railroad for shipment to a military prison in Omaha. The following morning, there was a bungle call. Bigfoot was brought out of his teepee and sat in front of his tent, and the older men were gathered around him and sitting right near him in the center. Colonel Force informed the Indians that they were now to be disarmed. While disarming the Indians, they noticed a man named Black Coyote, who was deaf, waving a rifle. Black Coyote, according to eyewitnesses, was waving the rifle to complain about paying too much money for it. However, the troops interpreted his behavior as an act of aggression. They grabbed the rifle from him and it went off, then triggered the other U.S. troops to fire their weapons, murdering hundreds of defenseless Native American men, women, and children. When the madness ended, Bigfoot and more than half of his people were dead or seriously wounded. 153 were known dead, but many of the wounded crawled away to die afterward. One estimate placed the final total of dead at very nearly 300 of the original 350 men, women, and children. The soldiers lost 25 dead and 39 wounded, most of them struck by their own bullets or shrapnels. Days later, soldiers dragged away the bodies of the 300 murdered Native Americans of Wounded Knee. The soldiers threw the bodies in open wagons and carted them across the state into a church. By the time they arrived, it was 4 days after Christmas in the year of 1890. On the pulpit of the church was written a message: "Peace on earth, goodwill to men."